word? No, I don't think okay, so the title of this talk is called Design Thinking, or Applying Design Process to Public Policy, Organization, and Life. That is because design thinking is like a trendy term, and I'm not a big fan of like contemporarily trendy terms, because usually like in retrospect they look dumb. Usually in retrospect, like the terms that catch are like ones that people don't think about. And people like to say it, so I'd rather just talk about like how do we apply design process to other areas outside like the traditional realms of design, right? That's basically what we're talking about. So this is like, for me, especially talking about public policy, I think it's particularly interesting right now. Not like interesting, just like important, right? With some of the kind of current events, right? Like if you go to any major news site, what's going to be like the #1 thing on the homepage is people kind of categorizing, like sort of casting a wide net over all the issues in Baltimore and shining light on like riots and stuff like that, right? So this is particularly pertinent, I think, right now what we're going to talk about, because I think it gives us a system to understand like how a better framework for how to think about addressing problems, right? So we start with this picture, right? So this is a sketch, like this is like some rendering someone did, right? Inspired by a book called All Quiet on the Western Front. How many of you guys read this book? Okay, a lot of you. I can remember reading this in high school and having a particularly like visceral reaction to one of the scenes, and you might remember this, where basically Paul is in this foxhole because there's this farce getting shelled, right? And he jumps this foxhole, and then one of these enemy combatants hops in the foxhole, thinking no one's in there. He just out of instinct grabs his knife, stabs this guy, and just instinctively does it, right? Doesn't think twice. So he doesn't think twice, right, about stabbing this guy. But then, like, as the force continues to get shelled, like, he has to spend multiple days with this man in this foxhole. And it's this traumatic experience because over time he's thinking to himself, well, maybe I could have just kind of subdued this guy. I really need to kill him. No, I was right to kill him, right? And then he starts thinking, like, oh my God, like, this is a person, right? Like, I killed a person. This person is here, right? Like, I wonder who he was. Like, I wonder if he has a family. He probably doesn't have a family. He looks really young. He takes out his wallet, sees a picture of him and his wife and his kids, and he's thinking, oh my God, like, I killed a father. Like, how could I have done this? Like, but then he reminds himself, well, this was what I was supposed to do. And then, you know, he starts thinking to himself, well, maybe if I get the address, I could find him, and after the war, I'll send money, I'll help support him. He starts to feel culpable for what happened. And then he kind of starts speaking to this man openly, not just thinking. He speaks to him after a while spending in this foxhole, saying to him, you know, like before you were just an abstraction in my mind, and now I see, like, you know, if I would have known you, we could have been comrades, we could have been brothers, right? So he's basically saying, like, over time, his view of this guy shifts from just this abstract kind of force that's aligned against him to realizing over time, like, oh my God, this is another human. This person has as little connection to like the conflicts that our governments are engaged in as I do, right? Because in World War I was particularly like the people actually fighting were particularly divorced from the actual issues at hand, which is kind of unique, which you haven't really seen that in modern warfare since like, you know, like the freaking like 100 Years War, where like someone would piss on someone's lawn and the kings and they would just, you know, fuck each other up. So like, but yeah, so it was really bad, and you know, like I said, they both were completely disconnected from the conflict, and yet they just knew they hate each other and kill each other. So the reason I bring this up is because to me, this is like a really incredibly important like thought exercise. Whenever you're kind of up against some system of thought that you don't agree with or you don't understand, just remember that like this is like another person, and like my view of them will like could totally change based on just a slightly different perspective on this, whatever the issue is, right? So this is a Chemex coffee maker, right? This is, I use this every day. This is an opinionated object in my opinion, right? So there's a lot of like opinion that goes into this that, you know, like basically this is not a suitable product for a lot of people to use. I love this product because it's good for me, right? Everyone loves opinionated products that are for them. So I bring this up because I find in my mind, I hold these two ideals very high up that are seemingly at odds, right? Which is this idea of like a design should be opinionated, right? Because like design for the masses is usually shitty, which is kind of true, right? But like I really appreciate opinionated design because good design is usually opinionated, you know, like. But then we also have this, right? Which is like this is like the it's like a Swiss Army knife, like for someone who like needs a can opener, you know, like it's the worst. But I use it all the time, right? Because it's ubiquitous. It just does a lot of things, but it's not particularly good, right? Then you have Vesper, which is made by John Berger and Co., and it's incredibly opinionated, and it's good. Well, it's okay. It's opinionated. It doesn't really suit my needs because I need to be able to just toss arbitrary images and stuff, or actually give headings to things, unlike just being able to put like paragraph text. So it's not suitable, but I admire it because it's opinionated, and they took a stance and they said, we want to make a note-taking app that doesn't try to be a Swiss Army knife. So in this case, whereas the Chemex would be before, Evernote suits me in this case and not Vesper just because of my own note-taking needs, yeah, I still admire it, right? But how do I reconcile this? How do we reconcile this idea that things should be good and opinionated, but also that things should be available for everyone? So this was an experience I had that kind of made me really question, made me think that everyone should have access to everything, right? So this is somewhere between freshman, senior year and freshman year in college. I had the opportunity to spend like most of the summer at a hospital in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and I was like doing IT shit in the hospital, and I like played basketball with these kids at this orphanage, and it was like pretty like jarring and maybe like in general very very cynical. And this was what started making me really think that like people deserve access to things, right? Because there's this like disparity, obviously in economics, but there's also like the idea of the disparity of access to agency to kind of gain upward mobility. It's not just like you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like really, it's difficult for some people to even gain access to the means to do that. And I really discovered this here, where I was just like showing people how to use Photoshop. They had like this print shop where they like did like screen printing for people. And like as I was there for an hour, teaching them how to like remove the background image around a person, so they could put their picture on like a photo ID sort of card. Power went out like 3 times. And they had like 7 hard drives in this desktop that they built. That was like each was like 11 or 12 gigs. It was only 2 years ago, so like. That's like, it was kind of ridiculous. And it was just like, they were super generous, super kind, and they were so excited. I was teaching them things, how to use Photoshop, whatever. They were like, oh my gosh, like, you know, if you lived in Addis, you'd be really rich. And I was like thinking to myself, like, that's like ridiculous, because like just by virtue of me having the means to like buy a plane ticket to come here, like I'm obviously, like relatively speaking, like fucking loaded, right? Like I don't think of myself as a rich person, but obviously relative to the circumstances which I was in, I was incredibly wealthy. And even by in this country standards, we're all, you know, mostly I'd say, we're very wealthy compared to, you know, like some other folks. So it kind of made me really question like this idea of like things should be opinionated, fuck anyone who doesn't like something. Because it's like, well, these few folks don't have the means to like really learn, and I was giving them the means, and they were, you know, eating it up. And then like, how did I learn? Like I just dicked around on the internet all day when I was a kid, like watch videos, listen to podcasts, and kind of just figure things out. But this was not even a possibility for them. You know, the bandwidth was like less than a meg down for like rich folks, and it was like exorbitantly priced, and there were outages. The government controlled all telecom, so like your emails would get flagged if you put the word Skype in or like anything related to public policy because like the elections are all rigged and shit. It's crazy. So like they just don't have the means, right? And it's not coming anytime soon. So like really, if we have like Silicon Valley sort of like our technology continues to progress at such a rate. Obviously, not only is there existing economic disparity, but the access and the educational possibilities is kind of, you know, diverging as well. So like this guy, this book, this guy's name is Victor Kopeniak. He writes a book called Design for the Real World, which I have here. And this book like totally changed my thinking about this. Like it helped me gain a framework of how to understand this disparity, right? So this is like a really great, really like well quoted thing of his. He talks about how industrial design today is corrupted, right? And today being 1970. So he's like railing against the establishment of marketing, and like you shouldn't even market products because products should be meeting a need. So their purpose should be self-evident and all this stuff. And so I'm just going to highlight a couple quotes. So there's this really long one, and basically I will summarize what he's saying here because I just copy and pasted out a blog like a paper in. And so what he basically says is that like there's this idea that by designing symbolic way for me to kind of actually construct a cohesive way of thinking about doing good, which is obviously it's kind of like ridiculous, a selfish one, but as people, I think we are just at our core very selfish. So I think this helped me think about that when I'm doing things that are positive, it's not really just for other people, but it's because I understand that I'm going to be on the receiving end of this as well. And the other thing that gets on that's really interesting is that last quote: to deprive ourselves of the brain potential of any person on our spaceship, so he talks about the spaceship called Earth, is wrong and no longer acceptable. That's another interesting idea, that like all the problems the world's facing, whether it's climate change, policy issues, everything, like we need as many people, not like as many humans, God forbid, like population's out of control, but we need as many like people with resources and access to create ideas. We need as many of them as possible to really work on these super hard problems. So when you have like whole segments of the world that are out of reach of education, then like necessarily we have like limited ability to solve a lot of these huge problems. Also like unrelated, but like as standards of living go up, populations, typically fertility decreases. So like bringing people out of poverty in terms of really actually population concerns is usually a good thing. So this helped me think about it. So okay, so now we've covered, so like I wanted to set this because this is a premise, right? So like if I talk about doing good as design for public policy, that's kind of based on a premise that social good is a good thing, right? Which like is up for debate. So that's why I kind of want to lay this groundwork. Like this is why I think you can do social good, and it's sort of a cohesive premise. So this is a Stringer Bell. This is from my favorite television show, The Wire, and he is a businessman in Baltimore. Coincidentally, I had this picked out before all this stuff happened. But so he's a businessman. He works selling products, dope, and among other things. And he right now you see he's in a room, right? He's wearing glasses, wearing clothing, sitting at a desk, maybe reading something. So Stringer really is like on the receiving end of a whole bunch of different design disciplines, which we covered last week, right? So if you think about like, you know, he is, so let's think about like this big concentric circle of existence, right? So Stringer's in this room, he's looking at things, whatever. At the base level, you have like, right, so we're talking about design disciplines. You have graphic design. So Stringer's reading a book, that's typographically set, that's typography, that's graphic design. There are things hung on the walls that are designed, right? You walk down the street, things are designed, advertisements, whatever, right? So then you also have industrial design. He's wearing glasses, wearing clothing, he's sitting on furniture, he's at a desk, how's that stuff designed, right? So graphic design sort of peripherally affects him. Industrial design affects him as well, right? And then architecture, he's inside this building, right? What is the state of the building? Is the building conducive to his business goals, etc.? So these things are really, really affecting his existence. But what about this space, right? What about the ideas and the policy and the culture that governs all three of these other circles? So in this case, we're talking about public policy, right? So like, how is a building zoned? What buildings are allowed to be built? Like, you know, like why is Stringer selling drugs, right? Like, why does Stringer have to provide for his family in that manner? And why is that the most reasonable solution for this guy to wind up with, right? So architecture, industrial design, graphic design, fixing those things don't solve these problems of like, you know, like you can make things better graphically, you can make things more comfortable, you can make buildings more livable and more energy efficient. But at the end of the day, like what about the design of these other things, right? Like who are the designers working in this huge space that ultimately governs the way all this stuff is made, right? And that would be like politicians and policymakers, like some of the worst people in the whole world, right? Like some of the worst humans are the ones designing the things, the forces that are ultimately governing all these other circles. So we have like, you know, people we really admire, maybe some like stuck-up douches or whatever in these three circles, but you know, they make cool things, but like this huge space is policy. And it's kind of a bummer that people are so bad and like politicians don't care about like our whole like whatever, it's just bad. So how can we think about policy in a different way? How can we apply design process to policy and organization and stuff like that? So a quick recap of last week, we talked about like defining design process. How does design occur? Research, right? Ideate, prototype, build, evaluate, repeat. So we're going to talk about how we apply this to like big, huge problems. And this is where I need Rocco's video device. So I'm going to show a short film from a movie called Urbanize, which is about like architecture and urban, like city planning and stuff. And this particular clip I'm going to show is a interview and section with
worse. The only way to solve traffic jams is to restrict car use. And the most obvious way of restricting car use is restricting parking. People seem to imagine that parking is a right, almost a fundamental right to be included in the United Nations Charter. In our Constitution, there are many rights. The right to housing, the right to education, the right to health, but I don't find the right to park. I don't see any constitution which includes the right to park. So if you ask me where you should park, the mayor can tell them. It's almost as if you ask me where you should put your food or your clothes. This is not a government problem. Before I was mayor, I have never been in a city which hated itself more than Bogota. There was a total lack of self-esteem and lack of hope. So when I was elected mayor, we started investing in people, in sidewalks, in parks, in great schools, in libraries, and also we created a bus-based public transport system. We copied a system from Curitiba, a small city in Brazil. We called it Transmilenio. We gave it a name because buses in most places have a stigma, a bad image of being for the poor, so we had to raise the bus status. Transmilenio bus system actually works much more like a subway on wheels than like a traditional bus. Buses go on exclusive lanes. People pay when they enter the station. When the buses arrive, the station doors open simultaneously with the bus doors. You can get 100 people out and 100 people into the bus in seconds. Many people save up to 2 hours a day because before they had to be on traditional buses in the traffic jam, and now they can go from one extreme to the other very fast. For the same cost that we could do a 25-kilometer subway, we do 400 kilometers of Transmilenio. These systems are also more flexible. Younger cities don't have such a defined center, and the center is shifting. So if you put a hugely expensive infrastructure such as a subway line, then you may find that the new center in a matter of 20 or 30 years is somewhere else where the subway line doesn't go. This system is very powerful symbol of democracy. The first article in every constitution says that, the first article in